I'm colorblind, but it says blue line.
Okay, so we are going to use Kali Linux today. We've used Kali Linux before. Everything can be downloaded, so we don't need a large external hard drive today. So my advice is when you test this lab, you should use a small USB. If your USB is 16 gigabyte or 32 gigabyte, like the one I gave you, it might take a little longer, but if it's empty or it doesn't have a lot of files, it's also fairly quick. So we are expecting about 20-30 minutes lag time in the scan. So I hope to demonstrate it, but we are gonna load and configure our virtual machine. So the first thing that you need to do is you should use Chrome browser. If you're using Edge, make sure that you click Save As so that way you can find your Kali Linux virtual machine. So for example, if I control click this, it's gonna try to download, right? It's gonna take me to the download page. And when I click this, it's make sure that you click Save As right here and then put it onto the downloads, because if you cannot find your virtual machine after you download, then I'm going to make you download it again. We have to access it. So we got to have the download. So if you're using the Edge, which is the default browser, click the Save As button. That's what I put in highlight yellow here. So please read that. Okay. If you're using Chrome, it's going to save it to the downloads folder. Okay, so once I click Save As, I would wait for it to download. It should take a few minutes, and I should have the zip folder here in my downloads folder. That's easy. If you want to put it on your desktop, that's fine, but I just keep it under downloads. I'm going to delete this one because that's an incomplete one. Oh, it didn't like that. Okay. After I download it, I'm going to right click it, go to show more options, and I would click 7-zip and then extract files. Okay. So what step am I doing? After your download is completed, go find your downloads folder, open up your folder. So you can click on File Explorer or this PC and then downloads. Right? So if I need to find my downloads and I don't know where that is, I can double click this folder or this PC and then click downloads, and you should see one with a 7-zip. Okay. We simply right click it, show more options, 7-zip, extract file. So this is going to be step 4. You don't need to install 7-zip. You already have that. So this is for the people who are trying to do this at home because they can't come today. But step 4, again, go find your downloads folder, right click, show more options, 7-zip, extract files. Third option. This is gonna take a few minutes for it to extract. Once it's done, you have the unzip folder like this. Do not double click it because you need to give it more juice. If you run the virtual machine as is, your scan is going to take hours. So we need to give it more processor and RAM. Okay? And otherwise you have to shut it down and then reboot and change it and then reboot it. So in the next step, what we're going to do is we are going to have the sufficient 8 gig of RAM and quad core. This is important, right? If we double click, I should remove this part. Sorry. It's going to be really slow. Okay. So before I start, I'm going to open up VirtualBox. And if you already started, you can shut it down and then boot it back up again. And then if you're in the scan, it's going to be slow. Okay, so open up VirtualBox. We are going to add the machine, click add. And go to downloads, find your Kali folder, open the unzip folder under downloads. And select the blue file. We've seen this before. Okay, again, add, downloads, find your unzip folder, its subfolder, and click the blue file and add it to the playlist. Then go to settings, and we're going to go to system and make sure that we give it 8,000. Sorry, I highlighted too much. 8,000. So after I added my virtual machine here, what did I do? I click on settings, go to system, and change up to 8 gig of RAM. You can make it close to, so 8,000 is good. And then your processor, change it to quad core, up it to 4. And then click OK. If you want to change your USB here, you should do that here, right? Plug in your small USB flash drive, click USB, and it's gonna default to 1.0. I normally select 2, and then I click here. So it should come up general U disk. If it doesn't, just add the generic 2.0 and hopefully it'll be able to find it. But it should say something like this. It's a generic U disk. So what did I do for the USB? I click the USB tab, click the plus add button, and then click the USB add button and then select my disk. Okay. It shouldn't be the others. It should be like the 2.0 or the U disk. Okay. Once that's done, we're gonna start.
But I think I started before.
You shut it down and then change the setting. Yep. Click the power button. Inside the Linux machine, it's on the top right. Click shut down and then change your settings. Okay, so your machine should start and then you're gonna log in using Kali. Anybody who needs help with loading VM? 8,000 megabytes. 8,000 megabytes already. Are you trying to load the compressed file? Save it under down.
The virtual.
Yeah, so
Right click, step 4. Right click, choose more options, and then go 7-zip index. No, so let's add to the virtual box. It should be.
Oh no,
You left click, try right click here. Maybe they changed.
Yeah.
Do that. Yeah.
Let's open it up. It's gonna run like, oh, okay. So, yeah, you can double.
The settings.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Go to settings and then go to system and then change to RAM for
Do I have, do I need this, to go?
Oh, no, that's fine, it's
8,000
8,000.
Okay, so
And-
go there,
4 core,
press start.
and then add USB. Okay, so we log in. But remember, when you add a USB, you gotta go to device, USB, and make sure that it's selected, that there's a little check mark, okay? After we boot, we can check that, that's fine. And you can activate your USB that way. So it should show your USB on your desktop, you see that? Okay, so if your USB is not named CIS27A, it's gonna say USB, okay? If you don't have that checkbox under devices and USB, it's not gonna show. Okay, so make sure we change, did you add the USB in? So that team has 8,000.
It says CIS27.
How many, like, what did you have to do? The app, right, control USB settings. And go to the where it says like the insert plugin, my thing is like put a plus on it, all in the right.
And then you can check on the devices and see if it's.
Yeah. Or maybe just like plug in this one like I did, because it wasn't.
Any other questions?
Plug into this one.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll-
so what did I do? I added more RAM, I added my USB, which is step 9, and so after you started and log in, make sure that you do step 9 and 10 for your USB. Okay? I'm sorry, 9 through
What's on the- okay, put the-
12.
go back to first word.
Okay? So the first section, just follow the steps. Let him do it. Let him follow the steps so he'll remember.
Alright.
And then, Gabe, when you stop, call me, okay? But you need to follow the steps so you remember. So to add the USB, look at part B, and you're gonna start with step 9, plug in your USB and configure your USB. Okay, then I have my USB and it should show my USB symbol with my USB name here, or sometime on the bottom, but you should see it. If you don't, then unplug your USB and try to redo that part again. Okay, any question on this?
On this USB, it says CIA27, but it doesn't show up here. With name, what is that, USB 1.1?
2.0. You are, so once you click cancel. All right, go to devices, USB. Slow down, USB, and then click general UDIS. That's what I put on the instruction. And give it a second. It's just gonna pop up when it sees it. But if not, you have to shut down and add the USB second. But there it is. Okay. So the question was that on your USB, right? It should show UDISC or generic UDISC or something like that. You should select it, or USB 2.0. It depends on the type of USB, but generally the flash drive is going to come up like this. Okay. So make sure that this is checked. If not, just click it to check it. All right. And it shows up on your desktop, either on top or on the bottom. So that part should be done for up to 14. Then for 15, we're going to open up our terminal, which is click the black square. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see. And always start your Linux systems with an update, because the application that you use require that sometimes. Because if you don't, it's going to be an error. So we're going to do a sudo, and you can copy paste if you don't want to type sudo app update. And it's going to ask for the password, which is the same login password. So KALI for Kali. Now, since we're using a pretty new version of Kali Linux, it doesn't take too long to update. If you're using a dated version, it's going to take a little bit longer. So this is going to take a few minutes to pull the update. And then I'm going to run Guymager. This is created by a person named Guy, right? Like I put the information here. Vonken. So this is why the application is called that way. But you need to run it at a higher privilege account, either root or you have to sudo, right? Otherwise, it would run, but it would not show you anything. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this application to create an image of our drive. Let's say that we found this drive, or this drive was discovered for investigation, right? We have to look at the content of the drive, but before we do that, we create an image, just like what we did last week. Okay. There are many tools this tool can allow you to also create DD image, but we're going to use its format. So once this is update, I'm going to pull this up next to it. Sorry. And I'm going to run the application. Now, if you're using a Linux version that doesn't have this installed, right, you need to install it. So you can go to the documentation, sudo app install Guymager. Usually that's going to pull it from Git, but sometimes you have to install other dependency package. So sudo Guymager. Now, if it finds the application, Kali Linux will highlight it in blue, right? If it shows white, then it cannot find. So check your typing. And it's going to give you the graphical user interface. So if you have a bunch of disks connected, it's going to list all of them that it sees. Okay, we see the V disk because when we create a virtual machine, it has to have a virtual disk on the drive. So that's for our Linux machine. And then your general U disk right here, that's my CIS27A flash drive, right? Or whichever flash drive you're using. Okay. So once this application, and the nice thing is you can click and select on this application. All right. So you should be able to answer these questions. It says, what is the drive size? So you need to expand this window and expand the terminal to see. Otherwise, it's going to cut off the right column. So it is 4.0 for mine, and if you're using a larger drive, you see that there. And it asks you for the sector size. So if it's able to give you the sector size, it's gonna be listed on the bottom right here. Okay, that's the standard sector size, is 512 bytes. We talked about that last time. And then if you just need to take a screenshot, you can add it to the lab document in following, right? So how do I screenshot again? You can use snip. Click that, and then click new, and then just drag it from top to right and paste it. Go to my document and right click and then paste. Okay. All right, so expand the window to see everything. All right, so once I have the screenshot that I need and answer the question, so the point in this is make sure that you are aware of the logical size of your drive, right? Your drive sector, which is the unit of your storage device. We are going to screenshot it, and then we are going to right click it, and we're going to acquire the image. I want to clarify there are two options. One is to acquire an image. If it's a drive that you have and you want to capture everything in that drive to examine for forensic, you create an image, okay? And we've been working with image since day one. Now, if you want to clone the device, it's just making a duplicate content of it. Then you clone it, okay? So for forensic, we would do acquire image. Okay, but for cloning is like for, you know, backup purposes and so on. So you can do it that way. So if you want to do data recovery and things like that, you can probably clone the device and then get the clone, right? The clone storage and then be able to pull the data from it. All right, so acquire the image is the option that we're gonna select. And this, you're gonna fill out the case number. So we're gonna do 004. And then the evidence number. This is personally just my approach. I normally add the case number with my evidence number. So that way, because you can have 100 and something different things. And then I normally indicate the type and the serial number, if you have it, into the evidence number. So that way it's easier for me to find. But that's just, you know, that's from one to another person could be different. Your company, sometimes they would have a specific practice. So I normally include the case number with evidence type and then the serial number in my evidence number. So that way it's easier for me to report. So we're gonna do a 004 USB. And then if you have the serial number, you can add it. Now you notice onto, you know, if you look in the back on the SSD or HDD, the software actually lists the serial number for you. So you can just take that and then put it into your description information here. And then put your full name. And then for the description, we're gonna add that, right? We want to put down as much information as you can, and you can copy this and paste it into Kali Linux. It allows you to do that, or you can type.
Spacey, like that,
Give me a second. I saw her hand up on an alpha. Oh, for open up your yeah, or whatever that you gonna save your, where is your? So. You need help?
Yeah, I can't go straight. We can take a screenshot.
Why is that? That's good there? You can, okay, back to your screen. Press Alt and print screen together. Print screen here, Alt and here. Okay. And then click copy to clipboard. Click OK. And then go to your document and paste it. Other questions? Okay, so once we have the information inputted for our case, right, you are going to click the 3-dot button for your directory. Now, it's going to automatically put it into root. That's going to be under your file system. So I tested it several ways. I try to put it on home and I try to put it in another area, but it does the inheritance and permissions. It's kind of funky with the application, the way that they wrote it. So you simply browse and you are going to put it into the root drive. That's fine because we're going to copy and paste it later. Okay. So you're simply here. Make sure that you are on your root drive, which is the drive symbol. And then on the left, it's also that. So the drive, and then click add folder. And then we're just going to type case, right? You don't need to double click or anything. Just type when you click the folder to add 004 and then choose. So make sure that we are in we have a directory for our case. Okay. So again, click here. Make sure that we select the drive. Click add folder. And then type in the name case 004. And so you see that I have that here. And then for the image, why is it not working?
Used to do the sick.
Right here, up here to paste. Click on, yeah, right click. You copy it already, right click. The clipboard. There you go. All right. Alt, print screen, and paste. Okay. So once we put in the information and created the folder for our case, we're going to add in the name. So I'm going to call it 004 USB 4 GB, right? You can name it however you want that pertains to the case. So I'm going to put in the file name without the extension. And it's going to fill out the info for you there. Now, the options on the bottom is important. We should have an MD5 calculated hash. This is used to import into other forensic toolkit. Okay. You can select the other two options. I normally do because some application it requires higher hash algorithm or different hash algorithm than MD5. And then you can also duplicate the image, but we're not going to do that today. Okay. And if you want to have it reread after it creates the image, that's just gonna take longer. So I normally leave this selected, verify for the after acquisition, because we want to verify that for reporting purposes, okay? So the last option should, it's default selected, keep that selected, and then click start. And it's gonna give you the status right here. It's gonna tell you when you started, so it puts today's date. And then it specify all the option that you selected right here, because that's gonna go into the info file. And that is helpful when you put together your report. Now your speed is gonna change. It's variant. So depending on your system, how it reads, and also your drive as well. Okay. But roughly you're gonna see that it's like about between 3.5 and under 5 megabyte per second. I know, right? Are you on less core?
I changed it to 8.
Okay, so once you have that going, take a screenshot of this. Right? It's also the USB too. So if you have like 3.0,
Mine says it's, idle, not running.
read the stats. You have to right click, read the stats and follow the steps.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, the font size. I think it was sometimes it's confused on the.
Is it?
Not, it's not, it's,
Oh.
before you look like that.
It should show it, here you go. Yeah, it will show it when it's done.
Oh.
On the bottom. You have to expand the whole window to see all the bottom. When it's finished, it will show all the hashes.
Like right here, right? On the
Yeah,
bottom?
on the bottom.
No.
It's just the- Yeah. Yes. This.
Yeah, can I like put on my, yeah, put on my folder. And then. Yeah, then click on it, like where it's like highlighted. Yeah, like. Name it,
Nothing over here.
Base 0, 0.
It's not here. Yeah, I'll go back.
Yeah, like, oh, like, so go to the top, like, right there, that's not. To go back, boom, go to the arrow back to that part, so you can read the file. That's back to the arrow, like, yeah. And, like, right there, like, front, right, like, yeah. Everything. No, it's like, that's what he wants to. Like, side. Yep. No, I put it there. Put it there. Alright, I just let it. Shoot. Box. Shoot. Yep.
Oh. Yeah, if you expand it, it'll tell you how long. Yeah, so 4 hours. We'll do the best we can today. We'll see, because if it's not done, then you can't do this.
find the answer to these, because well, not really.
Show one.
Yeah, let it think. Hey, you need me. Fine, you can find me.
We're gonna put this in the wrong way. That's it. So now you can do all that.
But yeah. How? Somehow, somebody's worth attacking one. No, weird.
That's all right. Yeah. So the answer to that is like,
Honestly, I have. I respect you. It is, because I have. my stuff.
Yeah, see how it's helped?
That's, that'll be good.
Yeah.
Just.
I'll
If
help
people
you.
react to it, like, if people react to it,
Oh, yeah.
me just gets me up at night, so you know what I do? It's my lane, man. Besides, oh, it is. Surprisingly high. What is all that stuff, right? You know, it's like, I like these, they download something, it's fine. Right?
Yeah, on my
Xbox.
laptop, yeah,
One of the things- Yeah, so the application is- That's one.
So I'm thinking that it might be
Oh, yeah.
the birth box where it's that's probably that. Yeah, it seems like it's software. Or
Yes, 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 and a lot of stuff that isn't.
and then if it doesn't work,
But then other parts, it's right there. Right, if I have to log into like an external account.
so whatever the.
It's fine, it's fine. It's more as an instrument. It's not just. So like that's the part that sucks. Right. Just like, you know, I can't, like something like this. Watch the end of the sunset. I'm not really dying, just, you know, can't do part C though, cause this thing's gonna take.
Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Ah, shit, damn, like yours is at 12%, mine's only at 10, like you started at 8.
Yeah, we can do like, and.
Oh,
I used to go to.
Oh, yeah, I'm like, the stupid thing is you can't do that with these, that's what I was trying to do all the time, Chrome's so much easier, I just go like, control, and then I put this one. Go through that, yeah. No, it's not a bunch of it. But so, go, click on that search thing, the very bottom. On that, yeah. Click on. Yeah, it's correct.
That was pretty easy.
Yeah, you can run that one.
Oh, there you go. Oh, I finished that, took one more.
So I guess, many of you tell me that your USB is scanning really, really slow, right?
Yeah, mine's gonna take like 4.5 hours.
I'm done already. So we will do it together, okay? I'm fine with that. Screenshot what you have and then I'll walk you through the answer.
So I just close that, so I just close the simulator.
And I don't know why your USB port is connecting that way. I am on the i9, which is the later version of that, but it could be imaging software issue. I think it's possible that it's a VirtualBox thing. But when I did this, I tested it. I made sure that I tested it for you guys. But anyway. Okay. So once we scan, right, you screenshot what you have. Even if it shows 9%, 30%, wherever you are, screenshot that. For step 25. Okay, are you all with me? We're gonna do the answers together for these.
Wait.
And we're only gonna do part A, because you guys are not gonna have the image to do part B. But I will show you how that's done. And we will answer part B. We'll do part A and part B, but together as a class, okay? So that way you can reference and you wanna try this at home, you can. Okay, so screenshot for 25. Then come back here you are going to look at your, what did I do? It says, return to the open terminal and look at so I'm in my terminal. Let me minimize this, right? It's going to tell you that it created, some kind of log file. Okay, so your log file name is this. You don't have to put everything down, just put up to that. But it's in this entire thing.
Oh, no, we're copying off of her now. For the game.
Yeah, you're not gonna be able to finish if you're, I'm done already for the 4 gig.
Everything else has to do with the USB.
Yeah.
37 when I loaded it up, on the website, it didn't load up.
But you have to, so you have to run it as a terminal and then open the browser.
Wait, we're doing which part now?
No, he's asking a different question.
So we gotta write. this
So
in.
26, we're answering 26. Or 27, I'm sorry. Are you able to see that? Var log Guymager.log. That's good enough. Right? But my point is, as you run on the terminal, do not close the terminal. It will tell you that it's gonna put the default into the temp runtime root, but your log file is here. Okay? All right, good. And then if you have any errors, you can go to the configuration error file. So we can copy that. And then I'll paste it on here. Okay. Now, once you're done, you're gonna open up the folder where you created, where your images is gonna be stored. Remember that anything that's larger than 2 gigs, all of the software tool and forensic, it's gonna cut it into multiple like image file. Okay. So we are going to go back here. I'm gonna go ahead and minimize this because I need my terminal later. And I'm gonna open up file system. This is like, you know, when you open up file manager in Windows, and you can do this in command line as well. And then it's gonna give you the root drive when you open up file system. That's like your C drive in Windows. And then open up the folder. And here I see 3 files. Number 1, it's gonna be the file name that I gave it, 004 USB 4GB.E01 and then E02. Why is that? Because my drive is 4 GB. And 4 GB, it's gonna make it into 2 images or 2 files for my image. Okay? So 28 now. So here, how many files? Just answer 3. Okay, you're gonna 3 files. That's good. And then you don't have to do a screenshot, but this is what it looks like. The reason why I make you guys do a lot of screenshots because later on you can reference it, but you know, now you have the resources, you can try this at home. Try it on a micro SD if you have SD reader. Okay, are we okay with this? Any questions? All right. So now what we're gonna do is we are going to look at one of the info files. So it's gonna give you 3 files, 2 of the image file, and this is like a summary file. So whatever that you have given it earlier, it's gonna show this. Okay. So it's gonna give you the version. So this is the version of the software that it uses. So what version was used in the acquisition? 8.13. 2 plus B1. What's the host name? I should know this answer right off the bat. Whatever your computer name would be that you use to run the software, it's gonna be Kali. But I'll show you where you can find that. So if you're using your computer name is gonna be the one that's placed there. That's the one that's running the application. But because we're using a virtual machine, so your host name is here on the report, on the info file. And then the system that's used, that's usually your OS. So I'm just gonna keep it like that version because it can be very long.
What was the host name?
Sorry, it should be Linux. So it's Linux, it's the operating system that you use. Linux Kali 6.8.11 AMD 64. And that's on the info file, right? That's the operating system that's used for to scan, right? To run the application to scan. So that means that once my image is complete, then I can go through my info file. And this is good because some of the software would use the hash image, MD5 hash image. So this one, you gotta scroll down a little bit and it tells you who created the software, they registered to their names. And then it's gonna give you the breakdown of your drive, right? Like, you know, if you have sector, logical, because it's all of these things, but you know, we already got the sector size. Okay. So now the acquisition, you remember how we fill out the form earlier? This is the part for the form where that plugs in. So we had specify all of the requirement for the scan, and then my MD5 hash is really long. But you know, the hash value is always so long. So let me put it on here. It's the font.
Maybe it's
So you just scroll down on the info file, you should be able to see your MD5, your SHA-1 and SHA-256 hash, the verified hash, right? We ran it as verified. That's why it takes a long time. So I think the problem with your USB, why it reads so slow for some of you, is because it's 2.0. And then I think I'm using a 3.0. But it doesn't make sense because I did buy you guys the 3.0 32 gigs for the beginning. But I think it might be a software issue. But that's what I think. I think that it's 2.0, that's what the speed is. It throttles so slow. Okay, are we okay with this? Any questions?
yeah, that part never showed up to me.
Yeah, it won't until you're done.
That's right.
And yours is probably like what, 2%, 10%, 20%?
0.
Yeah. So if it's not done, then you won't have this, right? So that means what? In real life, forensic, you can't just say that, oh, it's not done, right? You wait till it's done. If it says 6 hours, that's what you wait. So we might want to consider giving the virtual machine more core and more RAM. That's allowed. Sometime that works, sometime that doesn't. Sometime you have to wait. I'm sorry?
Max it out.
No, you shouldn't max it out because your whole system still needs it for other things, but you know, like maybe 6 core or something higher. I've done 8 core here before with 12 gig of RAM, and it ran fine. Okay, so your MD5 hash, your SHA-256 hash, all of that is here. And then it shows when it starts. So to answer that question, do it. Okay, when did the acquisition start? Today's date, 2024. So I'll copy it for you so you can see. And that's what's nice about Kali VM is that you can copy and then paste it most of the time. So it's just a timestamp from when we start the acquisition, and we need to document that for chain of custody, right? And the speed, well, depending on the drive, but on average, if nothing goes wrong, if everything goes as planned, so my acquisition speed is roughly under 5. So that took me 13 minutes and 40 seconds. And some of yours is crawling, right? It's also. Now, you know that they say that your USB, the more you use it, the more wear and tear that you have, and the slower it gets, and eventually it dies, right? Your flash drive is like that. So and also SSD is the same way. Flash technology is like that, not made to last forever, but it's definitely fast, and it is more reliable than HDD. Okay, my verification speed is actually faster, right? I'm at 101.05. Okay, are we okay with this? So that kind of show you where you can find that information after you done the analysis. And I encourage you to test this if you have access to Kali Linux and a USB. Okay, so when we're done, we're gonna close the information, and I'm gonna move back a step. So go back to file system, and I'm gonna go ahead and right click. We're gonna do a send to, and we're gonna send this to the desktop so I can have access to it. So it's still gonna be in the root drive. It's just I have oh, maybe no. Maybe I want to copy it. Sorry. I'm rethinking the process now. And then I'm gonna paste it onto my desktop. So let me delete this. So the reason why I put it on desktops, it's just easier for the sake of command line, right? Okay. You can also do a move to instead of a send to. All right, so now I'm gonna load Autopsy. So we're gonna come back, and you can open another terminal if you want, or you can use the one that you currently have. See how it's like this. And then to cancel, you can do Control-C. Let's do that so it cleans up the process. Okay. And then what we're gonna do is we are gonna run Autopsy. So first, you need to go to where your case file is located. Recall that I put it on my desktop, right? So in my terminal, I need to do CD desktop. And Linux is case sensitive, so, and I'm doing part B now. Okay. It's part C, I'm sorry, part C. And then we are gonna do sudo autopsy -H. Now, the reason why I have you guys do the help option is because I want you to see the options. So what we want is, we don't have that many options. So we want to, if you are using like a smartphone, you can connect that device to your virtual machine, right? You gotta click devices and you mount it kind of like your USB and be able to use the I option. But because we are using a folder with our image file already created, we just simply use a -D. -D is gonna be your evidence directory locker. I had that off. Okay, so what option? -D for 34. Any question? Sure. But did you copy your case04 folder
Yeah.
to the desktop? Okay, let me try it now.
Like I got every skill, but that's stuff I can.
Oh, maybe you doing, when you copy, when you do the send to, make sure you have move to, not send to. But I simply just copy and paste the folder over.
I did it 2 ways, like I moved it, then I copy it over and it still give me the same,
Okay,
but I can open it from before.
okay. So let me try it now. So we're gonna do a -D. Make sure it's a -D and then case 004. So if it finds a folder, it's gonna bold it in text for you. Yeah, that should work. So maybe I had a typo there before, so make sure it's a -D. And then space slash and make sure you type the folder. I'll check on you right now. Okay, so for those of you who are looking for the port, it's quadruple 9999. And you see that on your terminal. Okay.
Activated, right?
Oh, that's yeah, you have yeah, so the reason why so okay. So what happens is Autopsy runs it on a browser, but what it does is it runs it as an application service. You see, it tells me that this is my local host. This is the port that it runs. So it activates that service. Now I can run the application on my browser. See, using this link. Okay. So I'm going to copy this link and then open up Firefox on here and then just paste it. Sorry, I did it twice. Let's close that. And I'm sure you can click it because it's a, there it goes, right? So when you run Autopsy, make sure that you said which directory that has your image, and it's gonna pull all the images. You don't have to load one by one. That's what's nice about some of these toolkits. Sometimes other application, you gotta load one after the other, and that takes time. But it's gonna pull all of the image file that I have here, and then it's gonna place it into a service and a web service, and I can run it as a web application. That's what it's doing. Okay, so coming back here, this is what Autopsy looks like. It's a little nicer on the Windows side. So we know that whenever that you see a colon, that's your port number. And it's localhost, it uses the loopback address. So you can use loopback address or a localhost, usually that's the case. Okay, so I'm gonna so we'll go through this. New case. And if you have an open case, you simply just do an open case and then go back to what you have saved from before. And we're gonna type in the same information that we had before. So 4 GB USB, right? And then you can put down your investigation or investigator name. And that's pretty much it. You click new case, and then you're gonna add a host. And it says host 1, but you can do Cali because that's your host name. And then the description if you want. These are all optional. And then the time zone, if you don't specify that, it's gonna use UTC anyways. But we want to put in the image file path, right? I put down Cali for host name. And on this part right here, I want to make sure that I'm not using the hash. Sorry. Click next. And then add image. And then add image file. And then this is where I put in the path. The location of your image file. And it's probably gonna say something funky with the error, but it's still gonna do it. And you want the asterisk here because I have multiple E extension file, like E01 or E02. And you don't, because if you put only one E01, it's only gonna load one file. So because you have multiple image file, you need to put the asterisk. Like this. Okay? And then go next. And then go next. And for here, it's just gonna say it's DOS. That's basically fat because your USB is fat. That's fine.
Okay.
Click OK. And it says that it sees E01, right? E02 and the info. So it sees the content. And that's fine. That's what you want. Now, for these, remember the calculated hash value, you can specify that here, or you can add the hash value so it can find the image. That's the point. A lot of the forensic investigator, they prefer to use this area. For the sake of our exercise, you can just ignore the hash value for the image and just use the image. But in the industry, you will likely have to use the hash value here. That's why we wrote it down earlier, right? So you want to put that here, at least the MD5. So we're just going to click add and then click OK. And it's going to say that it's going to mount the first disk. It's raw. And then we're just going to analyze. We're almost done. So while it's doing it, and you can do this on Autopsy or ProDiscover, it's still pulling data. If you do a premature keyword search, likely that you're not going to have any hits. But if you wait a little bit, sometime it already pulls some of the data and you might be able to find things already, right? So for me, if I have a very large image, I would start doing keyword search maybe like 30 minutes in, or depending on the image. And I can start pulling some information. But if I don't, so you can, it's basically trying different, search, right? And it already built in some search, predefined search like IP. If you want to put in your keyword search, you gotta specify that here. And remember, we talked about using the dot, right? So when you do this analysis in Windows version, you're gonna see that it is very similar. It's just the interface looked different. So let's say that I'm looking for social security number on the drive. I actually purposely put a text file on on some of the few of the drives with, SN fake social security number to see if it finds it. And this process can take long if you have a large drive or not. We'll see if it gets some hits.
Well, now it's later.
Yes. No. When I did this, I don't know, it was coming back with 0 results pretty fast, but. So I'm just gonna show you, this is not what you should do, but the content of my, oh no, I can't access it, but let me see if I can access it on the inside. Yeah, so I have like social security number, fake social security number text there. See if it finds it, right? Yeah, so 0 hits, so no result. That's typical though. So we know that it's false negative at this point though, right? Like I have a document in text that has social security number on it, but it didn't find it. So I have to find another way to find the data without opening it. Right, so you can say 0 hit. 55. And it shows here 0 hits. So that means that it's false positive because I know for sure that I have a social security number on inside that drive, but it did not find it. And so I can try SSN2 or, find other ways to find the digits without opening the file. Okay, and then 58, you can definitely answer. So we learned how to use Guymager, right? To create your storage image, even though it takes time and some of you were frustrated because your system crashed, your virtual machine wasn't working out. But all of the forensic tools and systems gonna require patience. That's what I learned in forensic. But explain how you can use the software for your forensic field. So Guymager is an imaging application. Basically, it captures whatever that's on that drive and create an image for you to examine with forensic tool. Or we can also clone device this way, duplicate it. Autopsy is an application where we can analyze the image content, very similar to ProDiscover. This is used to be able to examine artifacts inside, an image or a storage image. But my hits for 55 can be a lot more accurate if I wait till the analysis is done. I'm doing it prematurely, and so just to let you know, when you do that, you will not get accurate results. It will be false negative. All right. And I will stick around until class time is over, but if you want to stick around and finish, that's fine, but I will do attendance next, so let me stop recording.